reporter who joins us from there, Andrew Hilliar. Andrew, there's been quite a lot, hasn't there, of pushback on these claims from Biden in progress at the talks. What's been the reaction there to the claims and indeed that pushback?
Well, indeed, I think here people are very cautiously optimistic. At least that's the language I've heard being used here. You know, talk of truce always raises hopes here, of course, especially amongst the families of those hostages still being held in Gaza. But there has indeed been quite a bit of pushback to Joe Biden's comments. Israeli officials saying that there's still a long way to go. Also, some saying even that Biden's comments took them by surprise. Hamas, for its part, saying that any talk of a deal was premature. Now, that deal, that draft deal we're referring to, was put together at those Paris talks over the weekend by American, Israeli, Egyptian and Qatari officials. Under the terms of that framework, there would be provisions in place for a temporary ceasefire and also a phased exchange of Palestinian prisoners for Israeli hostages. In the meantime, there are talks ongoing in the Qatari capital, Doha, between Hamas and Israeli officials. They're not direct talks, they are so-called proximity talks. And the hope is that somehow the two sides can inch closer together and bridge the gap to somehow clinch a deal before Ramadan, which begins around March the 10th.
Yeah, trying to decrease that gap, but there are still sticking points, aren't there? What are they, Andy?
Yeah, there are some very big sticking points indeed. First and foremost, Hamas has always insisted on a full Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. But for the Netanyahu government in Israel, that's simply out of the question. Israel, for its part, has always, of course, insisted that Hamas must stop firing rockets into Israel. But just yesterday, in the southern Israeli city of Ashkelon, sirens sounded warning of incoming rocket attacks. Also, disagreements on who would be amongst the first Israeli hostages to be released in a phased hostage release deal. Israel reportedly wants female soldiers to be amongst the first to be released. The problem is that Hamas sees any Israeli soldier as a key bargaining chip, so it's likely that they'll push back on that. So still a long way to go, but whichever way you look at it, I think what some of the parties involved here may be doing is trying to create a sense of momentum to try and push, incite both sides, encourage them to come together to somehow bridge the gap and reach a deal.
Andrew, thanks very much. Andrew Hilliar talking to us there live from Jerusalem.